Let's teach you the formula to my speed finisher exercises that I do with all my athletes at the end of our sprint training sessions to train the hip flexors and ankle stiffness. In this video, I'm going to break down when, where, and why this applies to sprinting, and consequently my favorite exercises, my coaching cues that you can start doing today to help you become faster. In sprinting, speed training, and the process of becoming faster, there's this fundamental problem and challenge that we face. On one hand, sprinting is the most specific, fastest thing that the human body can do, and consequently will transfer the most to becoming faster. But on the flip side, it is the most fatiguing thing that the body can do because it's so fast it uses your entire body. It absolutely taxes your central nervous system. So we can't just only sprint all the time, all out, because then our fatigue would go through the roof, our risk of injury would go through the roof, our performance would greatly decrease. So what can we do in this process of becoming faster on top of just sprinting, because we can't sprint all the time, to support the qualities that make us fast? Two things: train your hip flexors and train your ankle stiffness. But first, let's take a step back and break down the multiple phases of sprinting so we can really understand and also appreciate just how small these time windows are and just how fast these movements need to be effective with our hip flexors and also our ankle stiffness. So first we have ground time and air time, how long you're on the ground, and consequently in the air when you're sprinting. First, ground time. With lower being better, athletes are only on the ground for 0.1 to 0.13 seconds, with the best in the world only being on the ground 0.08 seconds when they sprint. And in the air time, 1 foot to the other foot, with the optimal being in the middle, same 0.1 to 0.13 seconds, with the optimal being in that 0.12 second time frame. And next, the recovery or swing phase. So how long 1 foot has to leave the ground, recover, get in front, and then consequently strike the ground again is 0.32 to 0.35 seconds. Next, how much force your lower body experiences when you sprint. 4 times your body weight, because the time is so small and it's happening so fast when you hit the ground. So every link in the chain from your hip to your knee to your ankle has to be able to handle that, and we don't want our ankles to be the weakest link. Last, in this recovery mindset, your thigh rotates 400 degrees a second to recover in sprinting. So we have these super small time frames to get stuff done, and consequently we have to be very fast and very strong to do so effectively when we run. Next, turning this into real life, these exercises pair great as a speed finisher at the end of a sprint training session when your sprinting is done, but you still have a little bit left in the tank, pairing 1 hip flexor exercise with 1 ankle stiffness exercise, 2 or 3 sets, no more than 5 minutes tops. Let's start with our hip flexors, and we have 2 main categories of exercises: our standing leg swings and our hanging leg raises. So first, I like to raise my athletes up off the ground a little bit so they're not concerned about their foot hitting the ground. And the main coaching cues for this are going to be as fast as you can, medium range of motion, not as big as possible, but really trying to keep the ribs and the shoulders under control. So I like having a contralateral arm swing, just like you're running. And how big and how fast can the athlete hit 10 of these, 12 of these as fast as they can? And there's 2 ways to progress this. Number 1 is, instead of going for a certain number of reps, you go for as many as you can in a X amount of time. As many as you can in 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. And second is adding an ankle weight. So admittedly, this is the smallest one we have, 1 pound, and even this is a little bit too much. 1 pound is 450 grams, and half a pound would be just fine. But same idea, and this 1 pound feels way heavier than it actually is because it's basically at the end of this lever. It is as far as it possibly can be from this axis of rotation. Next, all of our hanging leg raise exercises. So first, just the traditional hanging leg raise, any pull-up bar will do. And although this is a traditional lower ab development exercise, the simple cue and change to doing it as fast as you possibly can is going to be way more challenging and consequently transfer way more to sprinting, and definitely humbled me the first time I did it. 10 reps, all the way up, all the way down, as fast as possible. On the flip side, we can do this just to 1 leg at a time, and you guessed it, hanging one leg basically up to an A position and down as fast as possible. And one of the biggest mistakes I see my athletes make is they turn this into more of a cycle and a dribble, kind of like top speed running, which makes it easier, but we don't want this to be easy, we want this to be challenging. So when we cycle and our knee bends, we're shortening our lever length, and consequently it's easier to bring our leg up. So really cueing more of an A or an acceleration recovery pattern, straight up, straight down. We can make this harder in two ways. One, just put the same 1 pound ankle weight on and do your leg raises as fast as possible. The second way to progress this is by using a mini band, just the ones that you use during your lower body warm-up and activations. So putting it around the middle of the shoes, hanging from a bar, raising up and down as fast as you can. This is going to be beneficial for two reasons. Number one, it's going to reinforce that A raise pattern, because if you go like this, it'll fall off, obviously. And second, the band gets tighter as the top, really reinforcing and re-encouraging to speed up as you go through, getting strong as you go through, and finishing that hanging leg raise. And with both those variations, progressing week to week by either increasing the number of reps or going for an increased amount of time, as many reps as possible. Now getting onto our ankle stiffness, we have 5 main levels of difficulty and progressions of exercises, but the variations and the ways you can change the exercise itself are all the same or very similar. Starting 2 feet being the easiest, you can go linear, you can go lateral, you can do some sort of switching variation, and then one leg linear, and then also lateral. So with all of these, the intensity has to be there, right? We're going for these crazy short time frame windows to get the job done. So I like doing as many as possible in X amount of time, or 10 as fast as you can, but the cue is always speed, speed, speed. Level number 2 is going to be an actual physical object that the athlete has to get over. This is just a cloth rope that we've had for I don't even know how long, but same thing, all of these drills apply, just with a little bit of physical encouragement to get over it and not hit the rope. And also with an object like this, you can be a little bit more creative with some sort of patterns or combos to get the athlete's brain and body going just a little bit more. Next, levels 3, 4, and 5 are just getting up on an object itself, with progressing to higher and higher objects, which consequently coming back off of it is going to help gravity out a little bit, making the ground contact and the stiffness that much harder. So one of these black mats was from an old Olympic lifting platform that we broke down. These are 1.5 inches, but same thing, all of the variations that we talked about earlier still apply to this. Next, we have something like 3 inches, which is gonna be just a little bit harder. Then we have something that's 6, which is gonna be the hardest. And last, the highest I would go that you would cue and coach to be as fast as you possibly can would be a 12-inch box. So keeping in mind that there is a limit to this, learn, experiment, feel what feels fast, slow, where you feel uncomfortable as a coach or an athlete, and then don't push the border, because we're going for a little bit more volume of these ground contacts because it's the speed finisher, but consequently we still have to keep the speed and the intensity up.